Well, welcome to The Love of Cars, presented by Hagerty. I hope you all had a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. But Tommy, three things were missing this weekend. Normally I just plop myself in front of the sofa.
3-day weekends are nice, but not compared to the greatest day of racing TV watching every year. This is like Christmas Day for race fans. You start with Monaco in the morning, Indy 500 at the heart of the day, and then just when you think it's over, you've got 600 miles of NASCAR racing at Charlotte. We did have the Coke 600, but the other two?
I really, really miss it. But lots of other things to keep us busy, including some great stuff going online. Still, virtual racing, great TV shows to catch up on, and events like ours, shows like ours to look forward to. A little apology straight off the top. We had advertised that Nick Mason, the drummer for Pink Floyd, was going to join us. He's an old family friend. Unfortunately, he had to push us for a couple of weeks, but he will be joining us, hopefully in 2 weeks' time. So apologies from us on that one. But we have brought on a man who is, arguably just as entertaining, even though I don't know what he's like on drums. We have Tom Cotter joining us, his background is epic.
We teased his Barn Finder series that has put him on the map. He's written 17 books. Basically just goes wherever his interest and curiosity takes him. Those of you that have been on Bring It to Trailer, 2 of Tom Cotter's prize vehicles have sold in the last 2 days. Yeah. We'll talk to him about those. So.
Maybe someone watching now just wrote him a check. Who knows? We also have a fantastic, one half of a very influential and famous Michelin star winning restaurateur duo, and Curtis Duffy, who actually I met at the Michelin launch event for Pilot Sport at Thermal. He was one of the celebrated chefs, so I got to taste some of his food then. He is MIA in MIA right now with his wife. He's in Miami. But we have his partner, Michael Musa, joining us, who is going to, they do motorbike rides together. They do a lot. They're all on Michelin tires, and they're just launching a new restaurant. So that'll be super exciting.
Well, and we've had 3 Michelin star chefs on so far, single stars. One of only 14 3-star restaurants in America was where these two gentlemen have come from. A little bit of a messy departure. They had a falling out, and this went from the pinnacle of the food world to closed in a matter of weeks. And these two are and Michael's going to tell us about the new restaurant that they are planning to launch to exceed the old one.
But before that, let's welcome a friend of motorsports, one of the most impressive drivers. You likened him to the Mario Andretti of our era, Dario Franchitti. It was going to be a little late for him this evening, sitting at home just outside of London in his little country estate, so we had to record this earlier. But really, there is no one greater of our modern era than Dario, is there? Well,
we talk about 3 Michelin stars, 3 Indy 500 wins, and 4 IndyCar titles. Just one of the consummate winners of his time. Just an elegance about him. Career cut short, even though he had the unbelievable career cut a little bit short with a head injury on the street race in Houston. But Hall of Famer.
Goes on.
An MBE recognized by the Queen as well, like your father. And here is our chat with Dario Franchitti.
Well, Dario, welcome to The Love of Cars, presented by Hagerty. You are obviously loving cars because you're up way past your bedtime, mate.
Should I be nervous? I feel nervous here.
Only if
feels like a job interview.
Only if we were in your house right now at 10:30 at night.
Good point.
Yeah.
Now we're interrupting something though. You've been logging some hours in the sim.
Yeah. So I bought a simulator, which is a really stupid thing to do. Particularly as it cost me more than my first racing car. Bought it from Darren Turner. So there was a
double.
Deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He charged me double. So we've done a couple of races, the Legends Trophy and all that, which has been really good fun. I won the first one, and I've gone rapidly backwards since then. But now I'm doing the BRDC, British Racing Drivers Club event against all the rising stars and all the younger members. And Steve Soper's doing it. I'm doing it. Jason Plato's doing it.
Gosh.
Guess who finishes last, second last, and third last?
You three.
So Yeah, so we've had enough. We've even got data. We've got all this data, we could traces and everything for these sims. So eventually tonight, actually Derek Warwick sent me a thing today saying, Sandy Mitchell, young Scottish guy, races, very good young driver, races in the US a bit. He said, Sandy says, if you want some help, he'll help you out. So Sandy was helping with my steering and my brake setup tonight. So I was just about to test it and then looked at the clock and realised it was time to come and talk to you fine folks.
I mean, it's pretty much endless in terms of the adjustments, and you were known for being really particular, which is why a big part of probably why you were so successful. So you're getting your sim dialed in, basically, pedal feel, steering feedback. What do you do,
Tommy? Apparently it's all to do with, because they're all the same setup. You're not allowed to play with the setup, which kills me. So it's all about the adjusted pedals and the car brakes and how you get the steering feel and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. But it's come to my attention, and I've had to realise that I'm just not very good at it. And so,
why? Do you know what? So we were at an event, the Detroit Grand Prix last year, and we were around at. What was the club we were at?
Was it Robbie Buell's place?
Robbie Buell's place. We were at Robbie Buell's place.
Cool place.
Lovely place. And he had a big simulator set up there. And to be honest, like probably you would have been at the same point, we treat those things as games, right? It's a game. So it's a game. And I got on it. He got on it. I piled it up. He piled it up. Tommy stayed on it for longer, trying to beat out these little 12-year-olds that were there. But it was a game. And I've always had that thing with, my son Oliver beats me on his Force or whatever. It's like, it's not like the real thing. But exactly. now with this whole crop coming up now, I mean, we actually asked Calvin the other day, would you factor in a young driver, all thing being equal, same budget, same this, if they had mad skills on sim? And he said, yeah, I'd factor it in. A team should factor it in. Do you agree?
I think it's a good addition, but driving a sim is never going to replicate what you learn. Justin, you know this as well, as you sort of started a bit later than the McNishes and the guys you were racing against. The stuff you learn in your formative years in cars, you can't ever make up for that, and that balance and that. No. I mean, think about it, guys. What's that big thing you think about driving a car when you're on the limit in turn one at Road America? It's that inner ear, your butt telling you the feedback you get from all your senses. The simulator, it's a little bit of kickback from the wheel. It's what you're hearing and what you're seeing. Yeah. That's it. So it's a much different sort of skill set, I think. Not to take anything away from the guys that do it and are very good at it, but it's a tough transition.
Yeah. There's also one other thing, isn't there, that, and you doing what you do, driving at Indy, winning at Indy 3 times, wrecking spectacularly in certain places.
Which I can also do on a sim.
Which you can also do on a sim. The fear factor, that thing that drives us, that when you push yourself just maybe a little more than the next guy, or take yourself over that line, that is the one thing, I guess, that they don't have either. But let's talk about the real world. You were probably acknowledged as a very brave racing driver, but you were also a very intellectual one. Do you rate that as one of the qualities you brought to the game back when you were doing Indy? Because you have to be smart and brave, don't you? There's two things there. Yeah,
I think I'm not a particularly brave person out of the car. I'm quite risk averse. Always have been. I suppose you look at the things I've done in my life and you think, what are you talking about? Riding motorbikes, flying helicopters, all that. But I am quite risk averse. And, I'm not one for getting in fist fights, that kind of stuff. But you put me in a car and I'll do what has to be done. Absolutely. But I always felt, and maybe it's because of Jackie and the schooling that I got from him, but it was very much about making the car do the work, making the car better than anybody else's. And if you did that, it made your life that bit easier. I don't think it was laziness. I worked hard at it. And that still stands today with my job at Chip Ganassi. I push the guys there to make the cars better and to sort of impart that knowledge. And there's a lot of guys I think who, massive talent, but I wanted to put all the pieces in place to beat them, and that's what I did. I used every
bit you had.
Yeah, everything I had at my disposal, I tried to use to beat the opposition, whether that was in the mind or setting the car up maybe better or strategy, whatever that was. And I was lucky to be surrounded by just really good people, which, as you guys know better than anybody, you've got to have that or you're on a hiding to nothing.
Yeah.
Well, this show is about the love of cars, and it's interesting. Some racers aren't into cars. I know you've been trying to lead Dixie down the road a little bit. You're taking on some driving tours. You obviously have you've got the sickness bad in terms of loving cars. What came first for you? Was it the heroes like Jim Clark and Jackie that got you into cars, or was it cars with your dad, George Franchitti? You got to give George a hello from us. Was it the cars first that led to the driving? Which was first for you?
I think it was the cars. As a little boy, it was the cars. I don't know if you can see over my shoulder. There's some models there.
Yeah.
Yep.
F1 models. When I was a little boy, I'm talking 5 years old, my grandmother, who's still with us, she's 94, she spoiled me something crazy. And she brought these models back from Italy, these F1 models. And that started my passion for racing. But my dad would bring home nice cars before he blew all his money on my racing. And so we had a Ferrari Dino, a Porsche 911 Turbo, which I recently found 2 years ago. I found it, had it restored, and it was actually here this morning, and it's in the truck right now on the way to Scotland. It's all had its whole snagging list done, and it's getting dropped off at him tomorrow. So it was the love of cars that I think started the wanting to go racing, and that passion for cars hasn't diminished. If anything, it's got worse. I mean, I read something today that we're coming out of this lockdown thing, and searches for cars have gone up, and I'm thinking, how would you know? I mean, myself, but a lot of my friends, we search cars every day, every night. Bizarre, right?
Yeah. I know we were saying that. We were saying that, like, bring a trailer and things like that over here if you have no money, it's an addiction of hope, and like it's almost like, what would I do if I won the lottery? And this is it. I've been chatting with us, saying on a podcast we just did for someone earlier. We were talking about, I'm in a debate at the moment with Oliver, my son, who's 16. Our different viewpoint on what we'd spend our money on. I'd go much more your direction with the classics and some muscle cars and everything. He just wants, a big Bugatti, and that's all he wants. He'll blow it all on one car. But it's definitely, I think, this little period of time has given us this chance, hasn't it, to really think about what we like and what we want and what we're going to spend our time on. I mean, that's part of the future.
It has, absolutely, and it's given me a chance to spend more time with my family, which has been amazing. Not flying back and forwards to America. I've missed the racetrack a lot. I've missed the IndyCar guys. But
we got to say, back on Indy, what did you do yesterday? We walked around. No Monaco on Sunday, and yesterday, and we're only bystanders to both those events. What is a man like you? What do you?
What did I do? Honestly,
sat by your pool, didn't you?
I sat by the pool at one point, and I played Back Home Again in Indiana on my phone and sang along.
Oh, I love
it. Jim Neighbours was my pal. In fact, somewhere here there's a signed picture from him, a lovely thing. He put a lovely message on it. It's going up in my new office when it's finished, and that's what I did. And then my older daughter was going, what are you doing, Dad?
Yeah.
But that's what I did, and I missed it terribly. But then I said something to Chip about it about 3 weeks ago. I said, Chip, we're not getting to go to Indy. We should be going there this week. And he said, hey, calm down. We're going there in August.
That's true.
So, yeah.
Mr. Sentimental, Chip Ganassi, right?
Yeah. Well, the other thing that you did today, I asked Dario this morning on text. I said, hey, listen, if you could just show us what you've got around the place. And he said, all my trophy and most of my racing stuff's in Scotland. So it's a little video. We're just going to roll it in the side here. Look at that. I remember you posted when you got this Daytona. I mean, do you love it?
There's the kid's inheritance, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I adore that car. broke. I was going to say broke the toy budget. It blew the toy budget out of the water for the next, I don't know how many years. But my friend Joe McCarry's got one, and I drove it, and I had to have one. And one came along, and it was finishing the restoration, and so I got it. It's one of the 19 what they call the European cars, and it goes like a scolded cat. It's so fast. We've done a lot of sort of little tweaks to it to make it more drivable. Power steering. She's got a bit more oomph.
One of 19.
One of 19. There's 121 Daytona Spiders made. There's 19 what they call European cars.
Oh, how pretty.
So you and I had a conversation when we filmed our test drive years ago in Nashville, and we were talking about how the new cars are too fast for the streets. What is it about that car that is so right that you had to have? I mean, obviously the noise is part of it. Talk us through why that evokes such a response for you.
The first thing I was going to say, Tommy, was the noise. It was that. Today I took it out, put fuel in it today, which I'm trying to think of the conversion. It cost me $160 to fill it today. Worth every penny.
Yeah.
It's the noise. It's the induction. I introduced my daughter, Sophia, to induction noise the other day. She knows what carburetors sound like now. So it's induction noise. It's the exhaust. It's the V12. Just that music. It's the gate. It's that beautiful thin steering wheel, those big gauges, the way it makes you feel when you go through a corner.
The smell.
The smell of the leather, the smell of the fuel. Coming back from Goodwood, I think it was Revival last year. Sunday night, it just got dark. I was, of course, sticking to the speed limit, and it was just glorious.
One of those moments.
And that car, I don't drive it a whole lot because it's wasted if you drive it every day. But wow, when I do, it puts a smile on my face.
You've certainly earned your place. I mean, you an unbelievably glittering career that was cut shorter than you would have liked with your injuries, but one that stands up against anyone's. Your way of putting things into work. I say you're our generation's Mario Andretti. It's led to some of these opportunities where I can tell you've never lost what it felt like to be the kid with the little models dreaming about being a racer, but now you get asked to drive Jim Clark's Lotus. You drive some of these things at Goodwood and so forth. What is that like to you that you get people come to you and say, drive Sterling's car, drive this and that?
I kind of went through when I was competing. I wasn't so bad at the end of my career, but in the middle of my career, I was quite abrupt, shall we say. And racing to me was all about winning. That was the focus, and it was anything it took to do that. But in the middle of it, I had my moment when I sort of disappeared up my own. Towards the end of my career, I kind of got away from that a bit, and I actually enjoyed the most success. But since it stopped, I've realised how lucky I am that people say, "Hey, come and drive Jimmy's Lotus 38 in Indianapolis. Drive this, drive that." And I've been sort of recounting all that on Instagram recently, and just looking back on it, but I can't believe I got to drive that car. I can't believe I got to do this. I can't believe I got to do that. And it, from somebody that loves the sport, it's, there's maybe two of my heroes there, Sterling and Jackie. That to me has just been, it's been phenomenal. I feel so fortunate to get to do it.
Yeah, and it comes through in your description of driving like Jim Clark's car, because do you own a pair of Jim Clark underwear? I'm surprised. Is that the only thing you probably don't have of Jim Clark's?
I'm looking around the back there. There's a building in Scotland. We call it the Isle of Me building. Yeah, but it's got a Jim Clark room in it. And there's a lot of Jim Clark stuff. A lot of Jackie stuff too, actually.
Yeah, I bet.
But I don't have his underwear. I've got his shoes and his gloves.
You've got one of his cars.
Race suit. I've got his Lotus Cortina. Which
I love that.
I say I've got it. It's his car. I'm just kind of looking after it, and it's now in the museum, at the Jim Clark Museum. Which, if anybody gets the chance and they're going to Scotland, go to Duns, go to the Jim Clark Museum. It will blow your mind.
I bet.
Have you driven that car hard? Because that's the one thing you see still photos, but even in a still photo, that thing's moving. Have you wrung it out? I mean, it's obviously a national treasure, but have you leaned on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm laughing here because it's one of those things. This is a national treasure. It's such a famous car and all this. When I dropped it off at the Clark Museum, I gave it everything it had down those back roads where Jim used to drive as a kid. I mean, those are the roads that he took the DBR1 Aston Martin out for a quick test drive. And the Cortina just felt terrible on the highway. Terrible. As soon as I got on those back roads beside Duns, it just came alive.
I'm going to tell Jason, look for Jim Clark Lotus Cortina, and he'll pull that up.
Yeah, that'll come up.
The number plate is BGH 417B. That's the number plate. 64 car. It's a 64 championship car.
And he drove that on the roads as well.
No, that was his championship winning British saloon car. His oh my God, I'm such an anorak. His street car was 550 VAR, was his street Cortina.
License plate.
And it had Lotus Elan rear suspension on it towards the end.
You are a historian. You are a disciple, a student of the sport. Tell me, obviously I know Jim Clark would be on your, there it is, look at it, front left wheel off the ground. Woo! What drive, I mean, Jim, I know, would be on the grid next to you. Assemble your top 5 dream grid that you would ever have sat with, your heroes that you'd like to sit next to. I know Jim would probably be on the front row next to you. Who else would be there? Who do you wish you could have competed against?
Competed against? You sit there and you think, these guys are my heroes. But it's like with Mario, I always think, well, it'd been great to compete against Mario, but I was going to finish second. So that sort of curbs my enthusiasm for competing against them. Maybe having dinner with them. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those other sort of pinch yourself moments. I've got Mario's Lotus 79 up there.
Yeah.
That car is what got me into racing. I wanted to meet Mario Andretti when I was 5 years old. And now I've got to have dinner with him. That to me is a huge privilege. But Mario, Sterling, again, he was a great friend. Jim, of course, Jim Clark. Yeah. Jackie. Jackie's been such a big part of my life, and I'm a huge Jackie fan.
Yeah. How's he doing right now? Have you obviously spoken to him through all this?
He gave me an abusive email for my birthday the other day. Give me a hard time about my age. No, Jackie's good. Jackie's good. I saw him and Helen, I think December the last time, and Helen was on good form actually, which was lovely. I mean, there's so many. Parnelli, AJ.
Can you imagine driving a front engine roadster like Parnelli and those guys did at Indy?
No, I don't have the attachments to do that. I would say such a thing. Look at Parnelli. Even Parnelli now, was he 80? Oh, he's the oldest living winner of Indy. But you look at Parnelli and he's just tough as anything. He's like granite. And when I first saw him at a racetrack, it took me, I think, 4 years, actually more than 4 years, to go up and speak to him, to have the courage to speak to him, because I was scared of him. And he was delightful.
Look at that.
And we've become great pals. There he is. Look at that.
I know.
Look at Rufus.
He was a bad man. He is a
bad man.
I mean, there is something, I know, part of being a fan of the history, and we do touch on it on this show, is the fact that we have this romantic attachment to these eras that came before us, and there are young guys right now, young guys and girls who are going to have a romantic attachment to watching you win at Indy. That's the beautiful thing about racing, and is that it imprints itself on your memory for where you were and what you were dreaming of at that particular moment in your life. And so I think heroes are relevant whatever their decade. But obviously, when we look back and you look at the 60s and you look at the 70s, and it's just like, you think about what it was like driving back then. And we were talking last week with John Oates about, from Hall and Oates, about what it was like being a rock star in the 70s. And he just smiled and he's like, basically it's pretty darn good being a rock star. Do you think...
What a man. John Oates, another one. I lived in Nashville for 15 years. Never met John until 2 years ago.
And now, but a guy that loves these cars, and that's why we're enjoying doing this show, because it's actually allowing us to connect dots. We're coming up after this. We're having a co-owner of one of the top restaurants in Chicago. Chefs are coming a big part of what we do because they're like us. They're stark raving nuts in what they'll do to become the best. But what I was going to say was, if you look back on that era, one thing I think is important, incredibly relevant for someone like you, is the role that risk and danger plays in our sport. Our sport can never really be safe. It shouldn't ever really be safe, otherwise everyone can do it. But the era that my dad lived through, that Jim Clark lived through, was so bloody dangerous. That was the other end of the scale. Do you feel that makes that era even more valuable because it was hard won, hard fought, and sort of hard earned?
Absolutely. I mean, you're sitting next to a man there that pretty much, nearly lost his leg, his foot.
Yeah.
He knows about the risk reward as much as JB. You both of you lunatics drove at Le Mans at night. I think those guys, your dad's generation and before that, and even a little bit after, it was so dangerous that if it was not there was no gimmies, there was no go in the runoff here and have another go at that corner next lap. I'll get it flat next lap. You missed it. If you got it out of shape and got Eau Rouge wrong, there was a wall.
Yeah.
And so, that's a big part of it, balancing that risk reward. And some of the modern tracks, the US tracks aren't so bad, but some of the modern European and other areas tracks have missed the point with all this runoff. And that's where I think we're lucky with some of the places, that we still go, Road America, Watkins Glen. Obviously the ovals, there's absolutely no runoff, or the street courses. And I love that challenge of threading the needle. And I'm not sure I enjoyed it at the time, but the satisfaction of getting to the limit and getting closer to the limit than anybody else.
And shit scared. And like shit scared and still doing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You must have been. I thought about that because I never had a big wreck on a street circuit. I had a wreck that takes off your front right side of the Trans Am car at Detroit. Coming onto the back straight there, that the curb sticks out. I mean, not the wall had like a little edge that stuck out. You know what I'm talking about, right on the inside there.
Well.
And I aimed for it, and I was trying to get the run on the car in front of me, and literally in that that millisecond before I hit, I just knew. I was like, oh, balls! I've just bang, boom, and the wheels like dunk, 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 dunk. Now, the reason I bring it up is you run that risk on a street course, especially, of just being so close, and everyone thinks you're brilliant until you go over the line. Your wreck was when you basically clawed your way along the fence. It was horrific, but it could happen any time on a street circuit. Afterwards, were you just able to go? I mean, I know you were hurt, so that was really, really bad. But how do you evaluate that? Because I never had that. You had that crash, but on a street circuit, how do you afterwards? Do you go, that was the cost of doing business? I didn't want it to be like that. I mean, how do you evaluate that?
I never thought it would end in a parking lot in Houston, I have to say. Yeah. I thought if anything was going to bite me, it was going to be one of the big ovals. I thought it might have been Houston, Michigan, in 07 with that big wreck. But
sorry, we're showing the video right now.
Of the wreck, yeah. I never liked watching my wrecks, and then because I don't have any memory of it, I mean, you see it go through, look at the fence go up into the crowd. Those guys were so lucky that they weren't worse.
You dealt with it, even though in Derek's era it was every week, and so I mean, to block that out, you just had to have your head in the sand. But I mean, it ended your career. It took your best friend from you, a couple of your best friends, Dan Weldon and Greg Moore. That's the part that is we're great at denial. There, you can't deny it anymore. How did you, before it happened to you, how did you keep doing that? I mean, we all did it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on how do you push that away and go keep doing it?
It was harder with Greg because I was younger. With Dan, I was quite hardened by that point, and I was just able to get on with it. And I was, I think maybe mentally stronger. And that sounds callous, but I don't mean it that way. I just was like, right, back to work. This is what I do. And by that point, I was prepared to take any risk to be successful. And I look back now, and I've got, I'm in the swimming pool today with my two daughters, and I just think, I don't recognize that person, but that was my reality. That's what I was prepared to risk, to do.
Yeah, you just come out like Sterling said. He said it was something we did, chap. We'd go to a funeral on the Tuesday, and we'd be back at the track at the weekend, and all doing what we did like lunatics.
Now we're getting close to our break, but we can't end on that note. So I'm going to ask you, roads in Scotland, UK versus Nashville, Midwest America. Which roads?
Good question.
Good question.
Right. Nashville was fantastic roads, especially around the Leapers Fork area. There was some fantastic roads there. I've still got some great pals in the who love cars and still live in Nashville, and we would have some great drives there. But Scotland's where it's at.
Yeah.
A road trip in Scotland. The right month, got to pick October, maybe just before the weather turns, but the crowds are smaller. You can just have so much fun. We've had some of the best times driving all kinds of cars up the north of Scotland. So, it's got to be it, Tommy.
Got to be it. Well, listen, Dario, thanks so much for staying up late for us. We know we could talk to you for hours because there's so much to talk about. The future of cars, what you're going to be doing next. Obviously, we're probably going to see you at one of the races when they do kick back up. No Goodwoods, which is a pity. No Pebble Beach, which is a pity. So our social life has taken a dump. I do hope that there will be some occasion on the calendar before too long that we can hang out at.
But Justin, Goodwood's not revival might still happen at some shape or form.
Yeah.
And the Duke still, he doesn't give up easily, so we might see it. We'll see it at some point, boys. We'll have a beer at some point, okay?
We will do. Well, take care, Dario. Thanks so much, mate. Enjoy all the toys, and especially the kids. All right.
Be good, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Wow. Always fun, isn't it?
And really, what a guy. And a man that's transitioned and is in transition to the next phase of his life and is enjoying the fruits of all those risks and all those stories. I mean,
I liked how he put that he was at that point in his career, he was prepared to take any risk. And it does happen, slowly. And to hear him say, I hardly recognize that person now is interesting.
Really. The Michelin Guide has, as we've discussed before, really been for over 100 years the guiding light, the beacon of sort of hope and destination for all the weary travelers, everyone around the world, on where to go. And it is certainly in a revival mode right now. But of course, one of the key essence of that is the honor of getting a Michelin star. And we've had 3 one-star Michelin chefs on since the beginning of this new series, and today we actually have the second half of a duo restaurateurs who have they had 3 Michelin stars at their restaurant in Chicago, Grace. I guess we should bring Michael Muser on straight away because I know he's waiting. Michael, nice to meet you.
How are you, gentlemen? Thanks for having me on the show. I feel dramatically underqualified.
Oh, no. You're
3 stars, 3 Indy 500 wins. I mean, in your realm.
I mean, what a show! What an interview! That was fascinating.
Oh, thank you.
What a great job! I was just enthralled. What a great interview! That was awesome.
Yeah,
guys.
thank you. You know what? It's okay, isn't it, when the material is so rich like that? Because guys that have taken those risks. And I mean, you can relate to it probably, right?
No, that's what was so fascinating about it. Just listening to his words, there were so many connective moments in everything that he was saying and the restaurant world as we see it. They really were one in one. Even when he was describing the look and feel of a car and the interior and how it affected him and his relationship to that car. When it's funny, when we design restaurants, when we make the kind of restaurants that we make, I have an obsession with the bathrooms. I want them to be spectacular bathrooms. bathrooms, right? And the analogy that I used to the architects when they design these bathrooms, I tell them a story about when I was in 5th grade. The people that lived across the street from us, the Rossettis, Mr. Rossetti bought Gail a 560 SL Mercedes-Benz, and I lost my mind at the look of it. And she, bless her heart, asked if I wanted to go for a ride in it one day. And so, man, for the first time ever, I sat my butt in a German automobile, and I shut that door, and that sense of shakump, that suction cup of environment, that you were in there. It allowed you from an auditory standpoint, from a visual standpoint, to take in the walnut dashboard and the plushness of the carpet and the smell of the leather of that car. I can remember it like it was yesterday, man.
Changed your life.
And I would tell them, when you design these bathrooms, when they shut that door, I want to hear the facump. I want them to be sealed off from the outside world, and I want that bathroom to be theirs, to be owned by them while they're in it.
Well, you've kind of given me a little bit of an idea what maybe the answer to this question is. I mean, we've had 3 Michelin star chefs, 2 of which were owner-operators of very, very small places. One was Goosefoot there in Chicago. But what's the difference between a 1-star and a 2 and a 3-star? I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, you gave it an idea. Every detail. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, no. The quickest and the craziest answer is no one really knows exactly what draws a line really in between 1, 2, or 3, and it's very hard to kind of get into the webonomics of it. What we do, and our chef Curtis Duffy was previously awarded 3 Michelin stars at our last restaurant. And here we go, weeks away, hopefully, from announcing when sales go on for the reservations of our new restaurant ever. Curtis was awarded 3 Michelin stars. I would tell you that, yes, at 3 Michelin stars at that level, to be awarded that, to kind of run a restaurant at a particular level where it gets that, everything you were just talking about in that previous interview, a total dedication and absolute laser beam focus on one specific goal. And nothing else exists.
Wow.
Your friends, your family, walking your dog, doing your laundry. Good night. You work at this restaurant and you dedicate your life to it, and that's it.
And it's not just the food. It's the entire experience. Well, talk about your new place. How are you thinking about from the sidewalk? I mean, what are some of the things that you obsess over?
You everything. You think about the experience when you're designing the box. First, you get your box, and then you start dividing things up inside of it. We got to have a kitchen. Where's it going to go? And your square footage starts to just get eaten up like crazy. You lose it so fast. But you think about the experience through the mind's eye of the client. And when they open that first door, and what do they see, and who do they experience? At this one, we wanted to take them on a little bit of a journey prior to walking into the actual dining room itself. So we're walking guests down these 2 huge 33-foot long kind of eroded canyon walls that lead to this really cool, soft kind of wood paneled room where they're invited to pluck bites that kind of hang from the ceiling and have kind of like a really cool Willy Wonka kind of just
what I was
enjoy
thinking.
yourself prior to getting there, right? So that before you sit down in the dining room, you've already kind of been pushed around a little bit off your rocker, and you're going to rethink this experience. And then once you're sat, a symphony shows to the table, and it's brought to you by a pit crew of cooks, the likes of which you've never seen. This little crew of ninjas that just work tirelessly on every single aspect of every herb on every plate. And when something is called to go and sent to the dining room, my God, it's had a million eyes on it.
Wow.
And it gets brought in front of the table.
Wow. You know, one of the things that we have asked the chefs that have come on, and you could maybe answer this better than they almost did, is because you're one half of the partnership here.
Yeah.
In our sport, you've got to be obviously totally dedicated to and fearless to take risks at the right time and know the timing and everything. And for us, it can be in a millisecond. yours has this huge lead-in time based on this experience. And I can only imagine that what we've just gone through over the last couple of months, has it been a blessing because it's given you a bit more time? Because I think you're going to open in May. Has it given you a little bit more time to refine it? But at the same time, I know this is a big dollar business. So like racing is, I bet you're just counting every second, aren't you?
It's like the thing is just worked out in 12 different weird ways. In construction, this thing's going to be late walking in. So what we thought was going to be late, it actually ended up being beyond that. Now that on face value was not a good thing, but it did kick us past the COVID-19 explosion and the shutdown of our entire hospitality industry within the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
We did not experience that because we hadn't been up and running yet. So we didn't yet hire a staff and have to let them go. We didn't experience the trauma of the separation anxiety of your restaurant family, which, as people that work in restaurants know, you bond. I mean, you really, really, really do become a family. And then having everybody split up like that and kind of have to just live in isolation, that in and of itself, I didn't necessarily have to experience, but everyone I know did.
Everyone.
It's looking right now, for Ever's sake, for our new restaurant, we will probably just about be absolutely ready to go. Hopefully right about the same time our governor says, let's go ahead and allow dining to this extent. So serendipitously, that kind of looks, like we dodged a bullet, but the economic aftermath to come, brothers, is like, none of it. We're all shaking our heads, right? Oh. Nobody knows. We're all just going, I guess we'll just keep going as if, and we'll figure it out. If you're in the restaurant game, you're a fighter, and now is the time.
Now is the time. Well, I also know that
energy is not a problem. I can tell.
I don't think. I think he's okay to stay up 20 hours a day. I met Curtis and actually ate his food when he came on the Pilot Sport launch at Thermal with Michelin 4 years ago now. It must have been. And obviously, we did some stuff with Keanu Reeves and Arch Motorcycles. He was there. There they are now. It was just an amazing, amazing event. But you guys have continued your relationship with Michelin too, because don't you do the big motorcycle ride every year? And they literally get on their bikes and ride from Chicago all the way there, like nonstop. Yeah,
we're two-wheelers, although I have a mad passion for cars as well. But our relationship very much has to do with motorcycles. And serendipity, it worked so well to be able to partner up with Michelin and Arch Motorcycles and be able to kind of combine these passions and see how easy they do just kind of join together has been a radical experience. And has given us the opportunity to ride with Arch Motorcycles, and Keanu's been there for a couple of those events. As I'm watching this video, I'm watching Duffy show up on his Beamer.
Yeah.
And I'm a lunatic motorcycle guy. I mean, I've been from Chicago to California on 2 separate occasions. Whoa. And on the second run that I went, there's me on my recent rocket. That's my XR, my BMW XR. I haven't really gone too far on that one yet, but just as you guys were just talking about ultimate roads and Tennessee was brought up, every single year, without question, we head to the tail of the dragon. And if you like driving on American roads and you have not driven on the Cherrahola Skyway, then you have not done it yet. You have got to get up on that road. It is something to be dealt with.
I have not. No.
I have not done it. It was special, right?
Oh, guys. Yeah, exactly. It is just I don't necessarily wouldn't want to drive the tail of the dragon. It's fun for a motorcycle guy, I think. But the Blue Ridge Skyway and the Cherrahola Skyway are, without a doubt, should be on your list.
Well, that's kind of part of what we do on this show. Obviously, it's called The Love of Cars, but the unifying thing has definitely been everyone's passion for whatever they do, whether it's chefing, whether it's driving, riding, flying. I mean, if you do it with a passion, like I tell my kids, if you do it with passion, you can probably do it pretty well. What advice do you have before we let you go, for young people looking not just to get into your industry? I'm sure that's what they ask you about. What advice do you give them that you've learned across the years?
Go to work. That's my number one. That's my number. Go to work.
I love that. I love
Go
that.
to work. Get up and go to work. Go to work. Shut up. Go to work. Just every day, go to work. And if you go to work every single day, sooner or later, while you're at work, something good's going to happen for you. I promise.
Show up.
Can't. Exactly.
Yeah.
Just get there. It's the hardest part. And almost everything I think any of us ever do is the getting ready to doing it. Once we're doing it, we're usually really good about just being motivated and moving on, right? But
so don't get in your own way and make the excuses that keep you from starting. Yeah. I like that a lot.
And don't get caught up in your own head. No one really cares about your artistic integrity. Just, you know what I mean? If it passes your test, then go ahead and lay it out there and put it forward.
Hey, Michael, what a joy it's been to talk to you. We could talk to you for ages. We got to get Tom on in a minute to tell us how he makes money from selling cars and we don't.
So.
But we would really, really love to pop by one day. We if you need anyone to, like, as we've offered before, deliver food fast or, you know, whatever, we can be your guys. But that's about it.
You got it.
Take care, my friend. That's great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on the show, guys. I really appreciate it.
That's great. Take care, Michael. As they say in the press, it is going to be the best restaurant they've ever done. Ever.
Ever. Ever's the name.
Ever's the name. Well, Tom Cotter has had one of those careers that I was not aware of until you were telling me. I only know him for what he does now. Yeah. I had no clue. But what a guy. Our next guest is really someone who embodies this pretty well.
We teased his recent series, which has become a big hit on Hagerty, which is his Barn Finder series. Tom Cotter, welcome to the Love of Cars. And he's in his garage. Look at that. What do we have behind you?
Okay, over here, the white one is a Lotus Elan that I'm doing a restoration on. The bare chassis over there. There's some parts that are all lined up, ready to go back on. This is my Corvette race car, 64 Fuelie, B production car. It had the Riverside track record in '72. I mean, it's good. It's got good bones. And 289 Cobra back there, which is what I bought 20 years ago. And Peter Egan from Road and Track magazine and I drove it across the United States. And since then, it's been to almost every state. So, and then what you can't see is a GT350 Shelby and a Cunningham.
Now, I see the suitcase on the back of the Cobra. Was it on that initial trip that you had the story with the bear?
The bear. It was not. It was last year, and a bunch of four of us shipped our Cobras up to Alaska, and we drove 2,000 miles around the state on paved roads. It's so beautiful there. You have no idea. Austria's got nothing on Alaska. And my buddy Woody forgot his Fig Newtons in the car one night. I had the top up on it, and I woke up the next morning. The roof had been ripped off.
No.
There's three little dents on the quarter panel, still there, and the Fig Newtons were gone.
Who knew bears like Fig Newtons?
And I've got now. This is by no means a setup here, but was it covered by Hagerty?
It was covered by Hagerty.
No way.
I got a new top. Yeah, there's a top. That's what it was. And it was the interior had muddy footprints in it and stuff.
Oh.
But I was able to clean it up, and I got a new top. But I still keep that old top because when I take it to a show, it's kind of famous. I put the old top back on.
Yeah. There was a clip on social media in the last couple days about the bear opening the door of the Mercedes. Did you see that?
I've seen that before.
Yeah, this bear opens the door
Wow.
of a Mercedes, just actually like a human.
I remember when we went to a game reserve in South Africa when we were kids. They said make sure you lock the doors because the tigers had come up and open and the monkeys and everything. I'm very proud that you're wearing your RRDC shirt this evening. For those of our fans that do not know the relevance of wearing that shirt, you have to be proposed and
invited, confirmed, voted on. Yes,
and you are. I am.
Yes.
And
they were kind of hard up a couple of years ago, so they invited Paul Fanner and I to be members.
Well, before you scoured the globe for barn finds, you had a long career, built a big business in Motorsports PR. I see the Dale Earnhardt sheet metal behind you and the 43. Tell us, about Cotter Communications and take us on the journey of cars and how you got into this.
I mean, I have to tell you that I'm a bore at a party unless the party is filled with guys like you, because I can only talk about one thing, and that's cars. I've never played golf in my life. I don't hunt or fish or any of that stuff. This is all I do. So growing up on Long Island, how does a kid from Long Island, become a car guy and get in the racing business? Well, I wasn't going to be a driver. So I had to be a professional. So I found out about this career called public relations. I got hired by the Speedway ultimately, worked there for 4 years at Charlotte Motor Speedway, became PR director, and then opened my agency. I left Humpy, which was a tough thing to do because he and I got along so well. And so I had the business, and we started off with a folding card table with 2 people. And when I sold the business, I had about 80 people. Sold to Clear Channel Communications. That's when I bought the Cobra. I told my wife it's Cobra time. But we, the things we did, lots of NASCAR business because I'm in North Carolina. But I remember Mercedes-Benz was getting involved with the pushrod motor in 94. And I found about it at the end of 93. And I got a hold of the PR department. And they said, well, yeah, we know about Cotter Communications, but you guys are NASCAR. I said, no, I promise you, we're not NASCAR. We just happen to be here. And they gave us the business, and we represented the 3 Penske cars and at Indy in 94. And I wound up standing on victory lane with Little Al and Roger. The car had 1,000 horsepower. Al told me he could break the wheels loose in top gear on the front straightaway.
Yep.
But then you talked about Greg Moore before. We represented Mercedes when Greg passed in California. Like, you stand on victory lane at Indy, and then you have to handle funeral arrangements. So in the PR world, you gotta wear all the hats.
Well, and I mean, some NASCAR stories. Is there a story behind the sheet metal from the 3? Obviously, Dale Sr. is religion down there. Did you have personal interaction with Dale?
Oh, lots. In fact, going back when I first moved down to South in 85, if I needed a press release to be written and I needed quotes, I could leave a message for Earnhardt or Waltrip or Tim Richmond, and they'd call me back at night, and I could take my stuff. We're just all part of the same. Okay, let's just get this done. Richard Childress gave me that door, and that's off the car that won the Winston in '87. Nobody was into sheet metal. Sheet metal was just thrown away. And I said to Richard, "Can I have that door?" He said, "Sure." So I hung it on the door of my office, on the wall of my office at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And one day Earnhardt comes walking by to go to see Humpy. He said, "Cotter, what do you do at my door?" I said, I thought it was kind of artistic. So he takes out his Sharpie, and you can't see it from here, but it says, "To Tom, Dale Earnhardt, number 3. It's like, oh man, wow. So I'm not a big NASCAR fan, but I love the business, but I love the racing industry. And I was in it for 25 years. And when I sold the business, I kind of got out of it, got into the ride and drive business, Mercedes-Benz and BMW. But I've always been a car collector. On Barn Find Hunter, the 39 Ford Woody wagon I drive, I bought when I was 15 years old for $300. So I've got cars I've owned for, 30, 40, the Woody 50 years. I'm just a car guy, even when I was into racing, before I got into racing, and then afterwards. So I do my own restorations.
Okay.
I don't paint cars. I don't build motors, but I do a pretty good job of taking things apart. I have a glass bead cabinet. I paint parts, put them together in assemblies. I got the differential, the steering rack, all ready to go. So.
Well, you've got great taste as well. I mean, one of your cars just sold yesterday on Bring a Trailer. There's the Woody, and you've just for fun built a huge Woody show at your house that I think they're now the last one has maybe been held.
Well, we'll see how COVID does this year. This will be the 22nd year, and I haven't decided to do it or not. But that's the car I bought for $300 in 1969.
Wow!
And now it's got an LS1 engine and all that stuff because I drive that car all over the United States for Hagerty.
Well, the car I was going to it sold yesterday on Bring a Trailer, and when I saw it come, I didn't know it was yours. Talk about it. I grew up with, before my dad made any money, we had a Country Squire wagon that we towed our boat with to the Colorado River, and it was a little bit later, but he had a 68 Country Squire wagon. Only one ever ordered with a 428.
428.
And it's so, and a 4-speed sold yesterday on Bring a Trailer, and I'm like,
he has been talking about this all week, Tom,
yeah.
just so you know. It has not. It's just like he's pretending that his research was done for your appearance, but actually it was because he wanted it. I'm just saying that.
And I probably could have scraped the pennies together. It brought a pretty penny, but the half of everything I own would have been the expensive part of that transaction, because my wife has banned me for now from Bring a Trailer.
I know, it's an addiction.
Look at that, there it is. Wow.
So tell me, when you're doing the show, and your enthusiasm is palpable when you when you really do find something, and that's obviously why it's so popular. Those aha moments, those my goodness moments, that's genuine, and you just happen to be being recorded at the time. Is that why you think the show's so engaging?
I do. I don't want to become American Pickers. Because when American Pickers goes to see something, it's all well choreographed. It's already been scanned, and prices have been negotiated. There's no surprise. And when people give me leads, I appreciate it, but I don't want leads. I want to go and talk to the welding shop, the auto parts store. Who's the old guy in town with cars in his backyard? And I like to find it kind of the organic way. And so when I drive my Woody or that 67 Country Squire, and it's parked in some crabby guy's driveway who would normally say, get off my property, it's not for sale. He looks out there and sees a 39 Ford, and he says, wow, you want to come in and have some iced tea? And before you know it, you're a friend. So those cars are the icebreakers to get yourself one step closer to seeing what he's got in the garage.
What is it about the allure? What is it with guys in car that finding the car, seeing a corner of something under a cover? What do you think it is about that?
It's all about the search, and I think it stems for me probably when I was 8 years old. I wanted to find pirates' treasure, and I remember digging holes in the backyard trying to find pirates' treasure. I think finding barn finds is an adult way of kind of expressing that, and also barn finds kind of is the how do I say the entry drug to get into the car business, the antique-car world, because instead of buying a car like a Bring a Trailer, the whole world has seen it and they know what the value is. If you can find a car in somebody's yard, you might get a good deal on it. It's a way to kind of beat the market. If it's not on Bring a Trailer, it's not on eBay, it's not in a magazine, maybe I can get this thing cheaper than normal. So,
and even at the highest levels, whether it's a rusted car that's not that you've always liked, or I remember hearing Bruce Meyer when he found out his Ferrari that had been seized by Interpol, and he thought nobody knew it was being up for auction. So it doesn't matter what strata you're in, the idea of outmaneuvering your buddies and pulling up with something, and they're like, "Where did you get that?"
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Isn't that terrific? Yeah.
So what's the car you haven't found yet?
I have to tell you that I have all the cars that I've ever dreamed of owning. I mean, since I'm a kid, I've wanted a 289 Cobra with painted wire wheels and no roll bar and no side pipes, and I have it.
Yeah.
The car that I'm most excited about owning is the Cunningham over there. They only made 25 Cunninghams, and I was a Briggs Cunningham freak, paintings and artwork and toys and magazines and books, and now I've got the car, and his daughter, who's now deceased, gave me the fur coat that Briggs bought before when he went to Yale in 1926. It's what you wore to football games in Connecticut. In the wintertime, I've got a full-length raccoon coat, and it says made expressly for Briggs Cunningham. I don't need any more. Okay. So my passion is to find cars and give people encouragement to go out and find their own.
Wow. Now, you took a trip to Cuba. Was it with Bill Warner? And did you find an SL?
A couple.
A couple?
Yeah, just an SL, a Gullwing and a Roadster. There is rumor that there might be another Gullwing there. But we took a couple of trips there. There's Motorama show cars. We found a guy with a Porsche Carrera, 4-cam Carrera. Like, what? he's got a pushrod Volkswagen motor in there now, but the Carrera 4-cam motor is up in his apartment. So,
Wow.
and he swears as a guy with a 550 Spider with no paint on it, he saw it once at a traffic light going in the other direction, and he couldn't chase it down. He swears there's one on the island, and you can't get cars off the island.
It is like pirate treasure. How exciting!
And trying to find Bigfoot too. In that case.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Well, Tom,
So
listen, thank you. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We there's so many stories in there. We need.
Can
we
I
need a
ask
series.
Tommy one question?
Yeah.
When Paul Tracy heard I was going to be on the show, he wanted me to remind you that he's faster than you in everything.
Well, fake news, because the only times we've gone at it head-to-head, actually there was only one time on test drive, and the stopwatch don't lie. As I told him at the time, I said, Paul, if I was 5'5", they never would have heard of you in IndyCar racing.
That's
Wow.
yeah.
Anyway, it's been a pleasure, guys.
Oh, thank you so much. We'll see you out in the field, I'm sure, very soon. And thanks for being on The Love of Cars. That is you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Tom. Yeah. Wow.
That time flew.
That time flew. Hey, listen, while you deal with a couple of news and notes, I'm going to go over, it's a little segue here, because I've got my little show and tell. So,
well, one of the news and notes in what we've been doing, where we kind of point at some of the cool things that Hagerty is doing, they have a new thing going called Digital Driveway, which is basically a virtual car show. And they have a theme each week. I think this week it is British cars. So Justin went to work to have something British to show off here from Fusion Luxury Motors. But it's everybody, you post your cars. And so they had 90s cars, they had 60s muscle cars. And so whatever you want to do to show is Digital Driveway on Hagerty. Another one, which is really kind of interesting, is Drive Share. And Drive Share is basically an Airbnb for cars. And it's they've got a really slick interface where you can either rent, you can put your car up and generate revenue, and some people are justifying some of their buy decisions based on how much revenue they can get to make ends meet. That's a little bit of a gambler's mentality. Or if you want to drive some, it's hard to test drive some of these cars today. So Drive Share, and it's really sophisticated on how you can search. You can, you're like, I don't want to let just anyone in my car. You can say, like if you're in the Seattle area, I work at Microsoft, I only want to show this to fellow Microsoft employees as the pool. So it's really smart the way it can screen and select and filter. So those are a couple of things. So with that note, I'm going to throw it to my man GB with our entry in this week's Digital Driveway for British cars.
well, when it comes to British cars, obviously I'm naturally biased, and I'm here at Fusion Motor Company. As you know, we've told you that's where Bedded the Airstream is. And there's all this amazing finery, these exotic cars. But I've always had a soft spot for Land Rover Defenders. And odds are, if you find one, it's been beaten up a little bit and you think, gosh, I wish I'd had this in its heyday. Well, here at Fusion Motor Company, they actually take a donor chassis and turn it into something that the original designers of the Land Rover Defender could not have imagined. If you think about it, by the time they finished production back in the nightwares, actually all the way into the 2000s, 2 million Land Rover Defenders were made. And this beautiful car here is a Land Rover Defender 110 double cab pickup. Yeah, I said a pickup. It has metamorphosed like a moth into a beautiful butterfly, because the guys at Fusion put it on a new chassis and build it from the ground up with just all the latest technology they can get their hands on. Across the street from us here, they have their manufacturing plant, which when I took Tommy around, he could not believe it, because they have a full autoclave, they have CNC machinery, they can do everything, and their carbon fiber work is exquisite. So as you can see at the front here, this all new reimagined front grille area here, they use the latest in LED technology, patented own Fusion Motor Company lights. Under here is an LT1 motor with 455 horsepower matched to a 10-speed automatic transmission. I mean, the lighting kit, I can't actually turn on the lights right now because I will totally blind you. But when we come to the side, I'll actually, hopefully you'll be able to see from here. Well, actually, before we do that, in the back here, they have this Cerakote, it is called, and it's the same material that they use in ballistics on guns, on handguns and machine guns. And it is like an ungodly amount of strength and rigidity to it. So they have a patent here, or a license here, to actually use that spray-on bed liner in the back, and it's pretty special. But when you open the door, the step comes down. Let me just show you inside here. And guys, this is not your great-great-great-grandfather's Land Rover Defender. All carbon fiber work. They do an all-new gauge cluster, and they add in some other sort of capabilities to it. It tells you what gears you're in, all the latest electronics you'd expect. Carbon fiber work all the way through. They retain the all-wheel drive capacity and capabilities that Land Rovers are after. But, I mean, it has factory Recaro seats. It's just simply extraordinary. And if you wanted to buy one, well, yeah, you'll have to dig deep in your pocket, because while the original Defenders went for just a few $1,000s, and a vintage one is now worth a fair pretty penny, to get into one of these, well, you'll have to call them yourself. But I just want to start the engine because I want you to hear it. But this is our entry for the best of British cars, and out of all this finery, it's one I'd take with me. Tommy will have to follow in something else. Tommy, are you ready?
Let's hear it.
I can't hear you. You saying anything?
Blah,
No,
blah,
bye.
blah, 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 blah. I'm not listening. Blah, blah, blah. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, when I think rugged, I think Justin Bell. I don't know about you. He told me about this one time. He camped at the Four Seasons in Beverly Hills.
Mean.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? Well, that does it for us from this episode of The Love of Cars. Thanks again for joining us on this journey. It's been a lot of fun, and we will see you next Tuesday, and coming up in a couple days, Thursday, on the regular Torque Show.